How PM Oli's exit will forever change India-Nepal ties. Is Balen Shah real contender for Prime Ministership, and how India would have to change the big brother attitude if Balen Shah comes to the front? Today, Nepal stands at crossroads. Its Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli has resigned over the youth-led protest, and there are names such as Balen Shah, the mayor of Kathmandu, that are doing rounds that he will be up for the Prime Ministership. But the real question that lies here for us is this resignation of the current Prime Minister the time for resetting of Nepal's ties with India? So this Prime Ministership which lies in front, be whoever the candidate, can be a chance for India to restructure its relationship with Pakistan. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh. Today we are going to understand that how resignation of Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli is going to affect India-Nepal ties, and it might forever change them because of the stance he has taken, the Prime Minister had taken in recent times. So let us understand this in detail. So when we talk about the resignation of K.P. Sharma Oli, that came under the pretext of the Gen Z-led protest which was started because of the social media bans. But with this, there was a wider discontent which was emerging from the whole of the nation, which bottled up and then burst out in the form of protests that we have seen. If you want to understand more about it, I have covered it in detail. You can go and watch yesterday's video on Nepal's youth protest. But when we talk about this resignation after the withdrawal of ban, this not only indicates the change in Prime Ministership, this also clearly sends an indication that the youth versus establishment, this dynamic is changing, and it is also showing that youth is emerging over the established institutions, and this is also being seen globally. An example that will give you an insight: for example, whenever you talk about the recent protest or coups that have been seen in the country, you will always find countries which have greater proportion of youth. If you talk about Nepal, 40% of its population is youth. They are the ones who can trigger it. For example, the Bangladesh protest that we had seen, Sri Lanka, all of these situations, whenever you are seeing, that is something that you will notice. And in this scenario as well, you are going to find that. Now, the question that arises here, we need to understand that what lies in it for India and how it can be a relief point that K.P. Sharma Oli has resigned, and how it gives India a chance to reset its ties with especially Nepal, which is an important transitional point when we are talking about neighborhood first policy. When we are talking about this particular policy, in recent times, our ties with our neighbors have not been as good as they used to be. So this gives us another positioning time where we can look out for the situation and mend our ties. Now this whole scenario matters for India not only from the perspective of regional stability, because if India will not keep Nepal engaged, then there will be countries like US, China, even Gulf nation which will be eyeing to get certain amount of proximity with Nepal. But it also matters in the context कि यहाँ पर जो anti-India face था नेपाल में, that was K.P. Sharma Oli. He was driving the anti-India agenda, and him stepping down is an important relief point for India. And that is why we are talking again and again that this is chance for India to reset the bilateral ties that they have had with Nepal. So now let us understand that how this is a relief point and what India can do, what are the possibilities around. So the first thing that I mentioned, that K.P. Sharma Oli's tenure was the tenure of anti-India movement that we have seen in Nepal, and the relation between both of the countries remained strained. For example, if you talk about border dispute, in 2020 itself, map amendment was carried out where Kalapani, Lipu Lake and Limpia Dhara, all of these regions were shown as part of Nepal. If you want to understand this territorial dispute, you can go watch this video. You will be able to get clarity on this territorial dispute. Furthermore, as soon as India and China resumed their trade recently, Nepal again hardened its position because India and China resumed their trade through Lipu Lake Pass and Nepal was not happy about it. Another thing we saw in K.P. Sharma Oli's tenure was the fact that there was a definite China proximity that was seen because multiple MOUs were signed, especially for Belt Road Initiative, and overall China got the leverage and it was done just to balance India. Furthermore, the narrative of Big Brother. So when we are talking about India and neighborhood, especially with context of Nepal, India have always had the attitude of a big brother where they wanted to help, and this very narrative of being big brother was used by Nepal, that India is not allowing us the space of an equal partner, and this was used as anti-India rhetoric so that the domestic sympathies as well as domestic power can be consolidated by K.P. Sharma Oli. Now, all of this clearly shows that how much of a distance was created in both of the countries. But at this very time, when K.P. Sharma has stepped down, this gives us a space where we will be able to focus on confidence building measures. We will have a chance to resume dialogue, especially on disputed territories, and India can also push for economic diplomacy rather than just about geopolitical confrontation. All in this scenario, there is another important angle that we need to understand, that is the candidature of Balen Shah. Who is Balen Shah? Balen Shah is the present mayor of Kathmandu. He is an engineer, rapper, and then he rose up as a politician. He is known for his social media effect, which is also named as Balen effect, and he is credited for much of the Kathmandu's present situation that is seen. But at the same time, he is much more than that, because he is face of the youth-led protest, Gen Z-led protest, as well as the anti-establishment energy that is seen in Nepal as of now. Furthermore, his push for transparency, anti-corruption and education reforms, basically all the things that Nepali citizens are presently discontented of. यहाँ पर जो issue था सिर्फ social media ban नहीं था, बल्कि multiple economic issues which bottled up and led to this. This is how he has been popular for, because he is addressing the real causes, addressing the real issues. So, another candidate for Prime Ministership, this name is doing a lot of rounds, and Mayor Balen can be one of the options. But why are we discussing this particular option? Because when we are speaking of India's perspective, what India needs to do next, it also depends on the candidate. Because if you talk about K.P. Sharma Oli, his anti-India stance was the one which strained our relationship. So, if we talk about Balen Shah and his candidature is a possible real one, then India would also need to understand this particular person and how we can reset our ties. So, in this very context, when we are talking about Balen Shah, this has clear implications for India, because when we are talking about resolving issues, we will find that the presence of assertive nationalism will remain, because Balen Shah directly supports the idea of Greater Nepal. In this very scenario, he was the one who banned Indian films in 2023 in his very area. Furthermore, he has the advantage of youth connect, which India can use in terms of exchange programs, educational reforms, but at the same time, this very youth is less differential to India. They are globalized and they are social media driven, and they are aware of other opportunities and other partners that can exist for Nepal. Then we have the political reality. So, all in all, India has to clearly understand that India cannot rely on the traditional leaders. the leaders who have had been in Nepal, who have been running their polity. The whole anger is about these establishment, the Nepo politician, the Nepo kids, and the corruption that comes from within. So India also has to move towards the new age leaders in Nepal so that the ties can be reset. All in all, India has to move towards making proper strategic choices at the right time, because the whole idea of being big brother has to be changed, because that is something that is hurting the sentiments of people of Nepal. It is time that we go into the equal partner diplomacy that we ask from other nations. We wanted to be treated as equal partners with US, so Nepal also wants to be treated on the equal front. In this very context, Balen Shah has been very direct to US also, which can be seen in his tweets. Furthermore, if India is considering to reset its ties, there are certain limited options that are available to us. The first one being that we have to respect the sovereignty. We have to avoid any sort of micromanagement, especially in the internal politics of Nepal. We have made this mistake, especially during 2015 constitutional crisis that had happened and the blockade that was created. Furthermore, we also need to focus on the fact that partnerships, when we are talking about equal partner, we have to go ahead and develop partnerships. For example, investing in special, visible, people-centric projects where actually people of Nepal can also see that how India is coming here to contribute and help Nepal in equal terms. Be it the Upper Karnali hydropower project, Arun III power project, the cross-border rail as well as road connectivity, digital and health infrastructure, all that helps Nepal's economic health. And India needs to focus on youth-centered diplomacy, because as we can see in the Gen Z protest and the results of it and the candidature of Balen Shah, that youth will be the epicenter of politics in Nepal. And if we want to reset the ties, this is where we need to make the connect. So that means more scholarship, cultural exchanges, startup collaborations, tech collaborations, so that Nepal's youth, Nepal's Gen Z is also involved. And all across this, we have to be strategically patient so that any sort of differences, they can be managed quietly without igniting or rubbing their noses in terms of ideas such as Greater Nepal map. So this all needs to be dealt with patience and great focus on diplomacy and dialogue. India would have to walk this very tightrope in coming times, and it will be worth it because it will give them a defining moment, because there are certain challenges that lie in front of them. Because the nationalism, specifically in Nepal, assertive nationalism, it is on rise. China's presence, which was facilitated by K.P. Sharma Oli, it is not going to go back, because it is present in forms of infrastructure, investment as well as political backing. And third important factor is the unpredictability. Why we are saying unpredictability? The old age leaders which are going away and giving way to the new age leaders, we do not know the ways, frameworks, their policy. So we do not know in which direction that will be moving. So leaders like Balen Shah, they have the tendency to bypass the traditional diplomatic ways, and we would have to understand that and manage that as well. All in all, this is like an opportunity for India, where India needs to shift its gear, shift its strategic focus towards diplomacy which is focused on development and cooperation. And this is where India will be able to leverage not just its historical ties but cultural and economic ties that are important to reposition our relationship with Nepal. What do you think about it? You can put it down in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.